So you finally arrive on campus, you eagerly open up the university portal, and you start scrolling through the international student roster. You're just looking for one single name from home, anybody with your accent, your flag, or a familiar last name. And then it hits you. Zero. There is absolutely no one. Every single piece of advice you've ever heard probably told you to just find people from your country to ease the transition, right? Well, what exactly are you supposed to do when that safety net simply doesn't exist? In today's Explainer, we're diving into exactly what works when you are quite literally the only one from your country.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the hidden stakes of loneliness, rethinking belonging, the community portfolio, exactly what to say, building your own table, and finally, protecting your well-being. We aren't just going to talk about feelings today, we are building a systematic, highly actionable toolkit to fix this. All right, part 1, the hidden stakes of loneliness. We really need to understand why this is so much bigger than just missing home.
Look, isolation abroad isn't just an uncomfortable emotion. It has major structural downstream effects on your life. Research actually flags direct links between prolonged loneliness and things like missed classes, a dropped GPA, and even academic probation. And here is the kicker. If you're on a student visa, like an F1, your academic standing is directly tied to your legal right to stay in the country. Addressing this isolation isn't just about feeling happier. It is absolutely crucial for fiercely protecting the future you traveled halfway across the world to build.
Moving on to part 2, rethinking how to find belonging. It's time to shatter the biggest myth out there for international students. We all do this, right? We instinctively scan a crowded room for a matching face, someone who eats the exact same food or speaks our native language. That traditional goal of finding a mirror is completely natural. But when that group simply does not exist on your campus, you realize something profound. The goal was actually never to find an exact copy of yourself. The real goal underneath all of it is just finding a place where you don't have to constantly explain yourself to exist. It's about finding people who are willing to sit with you long enough to understand what you mean, even if your cultural references are a little different. And the research totally backs this up. Studies show that loneliness isn't just about the sheer number of people around you, it's the absence of an established position. You can literally be sitting in a packed lecture hall and feel completely invisible. And we know this hits postgraduate and PhD students the hardest, mostly because grad school is naturally just a lot more isolating and independent. But check this out. A controlled study found that international students who joined a shared activity group, like a choir, saw massive improvements in their well-being. And no, it wasn't because of the singing itself. It was simply because they showed up to the exact same room, working toward the exact same goal, week after week. Okay, part 3, the community portfolio method. Let's talk about how to mitigate your social risk. I want you to think about your social life abroad exactly like a financial portfolio. If you put all your emotional support into just one asset, a single bad week can totally wipe you out. Instead, you want to aim for a breakdown like this. 70% of your energy should go into local, in-person connections. These are people sharing your daily schedule, regardless of their background. Then put 20% into global connections, other international students from totally different countries. A student from Kenya and a student from Peru might not share a culture, but man, they both know the pain of converting currency in their heads at the coffee shop. Finally, allocate 10% for home. If you heavily over-index on calling back home, you are never going to build that critical 70% local support system. So how do we actually build up that 70%? We use what we call a bridge activity. This is a task-based group that gives you a built-in excuse to show up every single week. It completely removes that exhausting, awkward burden of trying to invent small talk out of thin air. Take Daniel, for example. He was a Peruvian master's student in Germany, and he was the literal only Peruvian on his entire campus. He found a general Latin American club, sure, but it only met once a semester. That is not enough to build a life on. So instead, Daniel joined the university robotics team. It met twice a week, had clear, high-pressure deadlines, and guess what? The actual friendships came later, almost like a happy side effect of doing the work together. To make a bridge activity actually work for you, it has to hit 3 specific criteria. Number 1, a fixed schedule. Number 2, a shared task or goal. And number 3, built-in accountability, meaning your input is genuinely needed for the group to succeed. A weekly research lab or climbing gym with a set class time? Perfect. A random one-off mixer event? Not going to cut it. Remember, repetition builds belonging. Part 4, exactly what to say. Let's get super practical with some copy-paste scripts you can use today. Let's be real, the absolute hardest part of building community isn't lacking motivation, it's just not knowing what words to use when you're standing in front of someone. If you want to approach a classmate after a lab session, try something exactly like this. It is a brilliant approach because it's specific, it's incredibly low stakes, and it gives the other person an easy out if they're just too busy. You're initiating without making it feel like a heavy, awkward commitment. Now, if the isolation is starting to impact your academics, you have got to be proactive. Copy and paste this exact email to your professor or your designated school official. By sending this, you are putting a safety net on the official record before your grades ever have a chance to slip. Reaching out early is fiercely protective of your visa status. Trust me, waiting until you are already failing a class to explain why you're struggling is a much, much harder conversation to have. Once you actually start talking to people, you need to use the second question technique to keep the connection alive. Here's the thing. Fact questions like, "Where are you from?" are dead ends. They basically force the other person to give you a boring geography lesson. Instead, ask a story question, like, "What's something from home you didn't realize you'd miss?" This instantly invites a memory, a real story, not just a factual report. And at the end of the day, people are going to remember you for the stories you share with them.
Section 5. Build your own table. This is all about protecting who you are. One of the deepest fears of not having anyone from your country nearby is this quiet panic that you might erase yourself. Will you forget who you are to fit in? The answer is no, but only if you are active about it. Stop waiting to be invited to someone else's table and just build your own. I love the story of Priya. She was a PhD student, the absolute only person from her specific region on a massive campus. Instead of waiting around for a cultural club to magically appear, she hosted a monthly dinner in her own apartment. She cooked a dish from home and invited a random, rotating group of lab mates and neighbors. 18 months later, her dinner party literally had a waiting list. She totally inverted the dynamic. She went from feeling like the different one to being the person who knew something cool that everyone else wanted to learn. Finally, Section 6, protecting your well-being. We need to parse out the difference between normal distance and actual discrimination. We have to take a second to address a very serious reality. Sometimes isolation is not a personal failure to socialize. Researchers point to a phenomenon called othering. This is when you are treated as permanently foreign, no matter how long you've actually lived there. If you've put yourself out there, you've tried the bridge activities, you've used the scripts, and you are still consistently facing targeted exclusion, that is a structural issue. It is so important to validate that this happens, and it requires a structural response, not just trying harder to make friends. If this is happening to you, you need to know the concrete steps to advocate for yourself. First, privately document the dates and events exactly as they happen. Just keep a log. Second, take that pattern and report it to your university's Diversity and Inclusion Office, the Dean of Students, or your international office. And please, hear me clearly on this. Formally, calmly reporting a pattern of exclusion with documented dates will not jeopardize your immigration status. You are absolutely allowed to stand up and advocate for yourself. On the flip side of well-being, we have to talk about the digital homeland rule. A lot of well-meaning people will tell you to just call home more, but keeping a constantly open digital tab to your past life quietly but effectively prevents you from building your present one. So here's the rule. Keep your calls home, of course, but treat them like a scheduled appointment. Pick 2 or 3 set times a week to connect. And outside of those windows, close the app, put the phone down, and force yourself to exist in your physical space. Now, what if you're dealing with something heavier than just a tricky adjustment period? You've got to recognize when homesickness crosses a line. If your loneliness is dragging on for months, if it's actively messing with your sleep and your appetite, and if it's genuinely impairing your ability to even get out of bed and function, we are in a different category. That is a mental health struggle, and it deserves a whole lot more than just a clever socialization strategy. And that brings us to a crucial point. Confidential counseling is a strategy, not a failure. Most universities offer free or heavily discounted counseling services. Utilizing this is completely hidden from immigration, it is highly confidential, and honestly, it's widely used by some of the most successful international students out there. Seeking help is the exact same proactive, smart instinct that's going to make you successful in your degree. It's a tool. Use it. So, let's bring this whole explainer together. From rethinking what belonging actually means and balancing out your community portfolio to having the exact right scripts in your back pocket and confidently building your own table, you now have a complete, cohesive toolkit. You can absolutely protect your well-being and thrive, even if you're the only one. I want to leave you with a question to chew on. What is one totally unexpected way you found community abroad? Think about it. I want you to take the tools from this explainer today, take that literal first step to build your bridge activity, and empower yourself to create a space where you don't have to explain yourself to exist. Keep learning, keep building your own table, and I will see you in the next explainer.